Welcome to the Money Maven Project podcast. If you're here to learn how to obtain freedom over your time and money through real estate investing, you're in the right place. Create the life you want by living with intention and becoming a Maven in mindset, money, and real estate. Now, here's your host, Justin Monk.
Hey, this is Justin with the Money Maven Project. Welcome to the Money Maven Project podcast. Tonight, we have an awesome guest, Larry Fiero. I'm super excited to learn more about his expertise in owner financing. Larry went from being in debt to owning 10 properties that provide him financial independence now with just those 10. His success is one of small steps in everyday properties, which has become a recession-proof vault of financial security. His path is also one that anyone, regardless of current finances, can realistically follow, and is something he loves talking about, which will work out perfect for tonight. Larry's investing career began when he purchased his first property right out of high school, and he has recently retired from his full-time job and works as a full-time real estate investor and podcaster. Larry also offers seller financing courses, which we may talk a little bit about or mention tonight. Coaching to help investors implement this powerful tool. So, Larry, welcome.
Justin, thank you for having me, man. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it.
You bet. So start us off, man. Let's go back in time here. Tell us where you started. Obviously, the first property right out of high school. What got you into that? And then what's the journey been like so far?
Sure. Now, that might not sound as impressive as some people, because they may not be that far out of high school, but I actually graduated high school in 1990. So I'm about 50 years old. So, you know, I've got a lot of experience in this area. So,
yeah. Yep.
I got kind of lucky because my best friend in high school, his mom was a real estate agent. And, you know, I basically grew up at his house, and she had a duplex that came available. And I'm not sure if it may have been self-serving. She couldn't sell it through regular means, and approached her son and I to go in as partners on it and broach the subject of owner financing. Had no idea what she was talking about. She basically took us out to the property. We walked through the property. She wrote down exactly what the comps were in the area, so we kind of had an idea. The downstairs apartment actually needed to be completely remodeled. So it was a value add. At that time, I didn't realize that's what it was called. So she said that we needed to remodel it, and we had to take that into account. We actually picked it up for a great price. The gentleman who was selling it gave it to us with no money down. Didn't charge us any interest on the loan, which was something that I had never heard of. You know, I'm coming fresh out of high school, and you have to pay interest for everything, right?
Right.
And that's
right.
That's what we're taught. And so we actually took possession of the property 30 days after we went and looked at it, started doing the remodel, and, you know, we walked through that first deal, and I was hooked at that point. You know, I met my wife. We actually decided to have our family, and at this point is where I made a critical error in judgment. I sold that property and stopped buying real estate.
Yeah.
And that was, you know, that was on me. If I had kept doing the same route, I can't even imagine where my portfolio would be today. But, you know, instead of doubling down like I should have, I sold that. Got my full-time job like they say you're supposed to. We had 2 kids, one right after the other. And, you know, live paycheck to paycheck. They didn't teach us how to do financing. They didn't teach us about credit scores. They didn't teach us any of the pertinent stuff in high school that you need in life.
Yeah.
And about 15 years ago, I realized my credit score was in the tank. I had debt like you wouldn't believe. And it was spiraling out of control. So I thought to myself, I need to figure this out. The last time I had real money was when I had that rental property. So I went back and started reevaluating the situation, dove headfirst into getting my financial house in order, which I would recommend for anyone seeking to invest in real estate. The financial house has to be in order to get the deals, the best credit, the best interest rates, that sort of thing. If you choose to pay interest, I try not to, as little as possible, at least. So started consuming all the everything I could about credit scores and that sort of thing. Got my credit fixed, got my debt paid off, started looking into buying real estate.
Yeah.
And then about maybe 8 years ago, because it takes a while. It takes a while to dig yourself into the hole, and it takes a while to fill it back in. So
Mm-hmm.
7 years ago, I found a couple of properties, and the first property I bought was, I'll dive into later on in a case study, but it was a home run. And from that point on, it was a duplex, and from that point on, I basically just bought as many properties as I could find that would meet that criteria.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And like we had said in the bio, 2.5 months ago, I had a let's just say a differences of opinion with the owner of the company that I work for, and I was in charge of the company. And she won the difference of opinion, and I decided that I had enough of working for somebody else when I had all this real estate that could support me. So
Yeah.
why put myself through that stress Monday through Friday making somebody else rich? So I decided to pull the trigger, and here I am.
Yeah. That's awesome. And real estate's provided the freedom to be able to make that decision. I mean, you don't have to do that if you don't want to. I mean, if that's not your thing, but it does provide the opportunity to make that decision if you want to, which is so powerful. And so all these properties, I don't know if you mentioned it or not, but all these properties were done via owner financing, correct?
They were. Yep.
Yeah.
My entire portfolio was purchased owner financing. And there's a lot of nuances with owner financing, and I think the big takeaway, and one of the things that the folks listening are going to run into when they first start doing owner finance, there's a myth out there that owner financing is only for people who can't afford it, the property. It's only for people who have terrible credit, so you can't qualify for a conventional mortgage. And it's got a bad connotation, and I'm trying to end that because it's not the case. For me, what started me on the owner finance path was my best friend's mother. But what continued me on that path was the fact that with duplexes and triplexes and residential, the most banks will limit you to 10 mortgages. So once you achieve that 10 mortgage limit, you can't get any more. You just can't get any more. They
Right.
look at you like you're a higher risk. So I've got my 10 properties right now that are owner financed. I've got 0 mortgages. I've still got 10 mortgages available. So if I find a property that it cash flows like a champ, then I can actually turn around and go to a bank, and I've still got 10 mortgages available. So theoretically, I could double the size of my portfolio, and before the bank cuts me off.
Yeah.
And then, I have to go with owner finance at that point.
That's a really good point, right? If you're tying them all up with personal mortgages, then you're going to run out of room eventually, just with how the banks are. And that's interesting that I think you mentioned that, and maybe we dive into it a little bit more of how we solve this issue and how we approach these owners. Because the first time I approached an owner on owner financing, I did it for the same reason. I'm like, well, if I can get him to do that, then it ties up less of my capital and less of my ability to go get my own financing. So I approached, actually had a whole direct mail campaign that was just looking for people there, but obviously difficult because there's so many common misconceptions out there. And the one was, once I got him on the phone, he responded to that direct mail piece. Once I got him on the phone, his feeling was, well, you apparently can't go to the bank and get a loan. That's why you're asking me to carry the note. And so he was scared. He thought I was more risky, even though I have other properties. I'm I sent him like my financials, basically, like what I had, in savings and all this stuff. And he just like, well, if you're asking me to do this, that means you can't go get a loan for some reason. So that means you're more risky. So I need you to put 40% down. And I'm like, that's not going to work. It was $150,000 duplex or something. And I'm like, well, that's not going to work because it ties up way too much capital. I'd rather just figure out a different way to do this. And So I ran into that obstacle, which I did not see that coming. I did not see that coming. So how do we address that? How do we help owners out with that issue?
Well, what I generally do is I provide. If they ask, my big thing is I show them what my credit score is. I provide the credit score, not just the financials. The financials are good, but if you can show the owner that you have a fantastic credit score, I've actually printed out my Credit Karma report, sent it over, and it was a done deal at that point. Because when you have anything that starts with a 7 or an 8, people are like, oh, they're very uptight, and they're very diligent about paying their bills. And I try and maintain at least a 730, 740 credit score. If you
Yeah.
can maintain a 730, 740 credit score and be in the good area, most owners can respect that.
I didn't
That's the
even I
first thing.
didn't even think of that. I did not even think of that. Dang it.
No, it's not something that most people think about. And one of the things you definitely, when you're first getting into owner finance, you have to get used to hearing the word no, until you figure out how to approach the sellers. And that, like I said, that's one of the things we address in our courses and our coaching program is the
Mm-hmm.
proper way, because every seller is different. What you've got to do is use the number one key to owner financing. And the number one skill involved in owner financing is listening. So you have to listen to what they're trying to accomplish. Why are they selling? Are they trying to retire? Do they have a health issue that they need to back off on doing so much? Are they just burnt out on landlording? Some people, I've talked to a couple different people in the last couple weeks, and they had a property that the woman who was selling it wanted to owner finance. She just wanted to go traveling the country in an RV, you know? So, and that's what it is. You just got to
Mm-hmm.
figure out what they're trying to accomplish and listen, and then start the creativity, because that's the
Mm-hmm.
key right there. Listening, creativity, the two key components.
Love that.
Yeah. So, and once you figure out what they're trying to accomplish, the way you frame it is making it so, like, do you know why the seller was selling the property?
I know that I asked that. I don't remember. It's been a few
Yeah.
months, but I
So,
remember asking that. Yeah.
yeah. So let's say the guy wanted to retire. Let's just throw it out there. The owner wanted to retire. And what you can do is you can sit there and say to the owner, well, this is an option that I'm offering you. I can do quick closing if you hold the note. I can provide you monthly income, and let's get you out on the golf links if that's what you want to do, or let's get you into the beach. I mean, ask the owner, what does your retirement look like? What to you, when you decide to retire? Me personally, I've got a camper. I love going camping. That's what my retirement's going to look like, or beachfront property. So if
Mm-hmm.
somebody came to me and started, selling the whole, let's get you onto the beach, let's get you a Mai Tai, let's get you sitting by the ocean, let's get you sitting by the water, not taking care of tenant problems or resident problems and that sort of thing. So let's get you where you want to be. And this is what I'm offering. Here's my credit score. I pay my bills on time. If I don't pay the bills on time, then you've still got a valid mortgage against the property. You could foreclose it just like a bank. Once they offer you that seller financing, it becomes a traditional transaction.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the only difference is the name on the mortgage isn't Chase Bank or Bank of America or whatever. It's John Doe or Jane Doe.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only difference in owner financing, is that actual step of getting the people to agree to give you that down, or give you the mortgage. And and you're negotiable. A lot of times people have this number in their head. So when say you've got that $150,000 mortgage, and he's concerned with making sure that he gets that $150,000 for the property. Well, the big thing is you have to say to him, I'll give you your full asking price. I can make money at 150,000. You have to make sure your underwriting is right on. You have to make sure that you actually aren't going to lose money, because that's never a good scenario. So, but say, I'll give you $150,000 down, or for the property. Here's some concessions that I need. Okay. I want to pay 0% interest. and I'd like to do no money down, because with the down payment, I do have the cash, but I don't want to use it, because what I want to do is I want to take that money and put it into fixing up the property, because I want to reposition this property. And that's a big one. And you could say, not only am I going to take the down payment, put it back into the property that you have a valid mortgage. If I default on the mortgage, now you've got a property that's not worth 150,000. You've got a property that's worth 180,000 that you can take back.
Yeah, that's
So,
awesome. That's a really good way to position that. I love that. Using the down payment. They're safe, right? The worst case scenario, they take the property back and it's better than when they got it, more valuable. So
yep.
What are a couple other really common obstacles that you run into when trying to get owner financing?
The big one that I run into is just lack of knowledge. I mean, not a lot of people know about owner financing. So if you go to a broker or a real estate agent and you start trying to get somebody to approach a seller for you, because not every deal that you do is going to be direct to seller. That's the golden deal that you want. That's the number one deal you want, because the less people involved between you and a seller, the better off everybody is. That's just any real estate transaction. The less people involved, the better. So what you've got to accomplish is, a lot of times you'll have to go like the MLS, Realtor.com, Zillow, and all that, and you have to educate these real estate agents and brokers on how to do the deal, because they just don't know. You have to educate yourself first, and then once you're educated, you can go educate these people. And like my real estate portfolio, I bought my first property with the same real estate agent that I bought the other 9 properties from. And the way I did it, and Andrew will probably, if he listens to this, he'll probably call me and be like, dude, what are you doing? But I found a relatively inexperienced real estate agent, somebody who's new to the game. They were hungry. They didn't care. They just wanted to get some deals under their belt. So I had all this knowledge on real estate investing with owner financing, and I basically walked him through everything and told him, this is what we want to do. Make the offer. And he shot back like, dude, I'll make whatever offer you want. I'm not embarrassed. I'll go take you. You need somebody hungry like that.
Yeah.
You get a guy that's been a real estate agent for 30 years. He hears owner financing. His eyes glaze over. He stops listening. Okay. Yep. You get a 18, 19, 20, 21 year old, whatever I don't know if there's a age limit for real estate agents, but when you become 50, everybody looks 12. So, you find the younger hungry agent and teach them, take them under your wing. And then every time you get a deal, like I'll call him now with a deal, and he knows it's pretty much a done deal. If I get the numbers I want, I'm a closer. And you have to prove that you're a closer to these agents, because nobody wants to waste their time. So make sure that if you pull the trigger, or that if you get a deal under it, you got to pull the trigger on it, because you're not going to have them run around, because you lose a lot of good faith with these real estate agents and brokers if you're not ready to sit down at the closing table and sign the dotted line.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a big thing. So that's the number one problem.
So lack of knowledge, right? And
lack of knowledge.
And so you're educating these owners. You get one on the phone, whatever, you find a deal, you get one on the phone, you approach it, asking a few questions, listening to what their goals are, then packaging your offer to accomplish their goals, whether it's retirement, being on the golf course, whatever, proposing 0% interest, 0 down, because you're going to put that down payment into the repair of the property. And then what are some common questions or things that they ask at that point? Like, what are their concerns at this point, and how do we solve them?
Their main concern is whether you're a deadbeat or not, and a lot of times you're talking about big money for a lot of these owners, and they want to know that you're going to perform on the no. They don't want to trust you with this property, and because there's been some bad deals out there. I'm going to be the first to tell you some owner finance deals have gone wrong, and I've seen it go wrong. And
Yeah.
it's because the person that bought the property didn't pay the note, and then basically went in and had some bad tenants, didn't do their due diligence. You got to do the background checks on tenants. You have to, once you get it, just because it was owner finance doesn't mean that you cannot be a good landlord. You've got to do all the right stuff that you normally would do if it was a bank owned property.
Yeah.
You have to vet the tenants. You have to just make sure they're not going to go in there and destroy the property, and don't just throw anyone into a property just to have a tenant. You have to take your time and find the right tenant. So one that has a good credit score, and I could do an entire podcast episode on due diligence on tenants because I've seen some stuff.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's what their main concern is. They want to know how they're going to get paid, whether you're going to follow through, and what's in it for them. What's their benefit? So, and
yeah, no, that's perfect. And one thing that we got, I don't know if we've mentioned this already, but these 10 properties that you've owned or financed, they're all multifamily. They're larger deals, which to me is crazy. I've never thought, I didn't think owner financing was even on the table for larger multifamily. We're talking like 5 units plus, right? What's your smallest property?
It's a duplex. I don't do anything single family because I'm not a real big fan of either 100% occupancy or zero. I mean, there's just too big a spread there.
Yeah. And you either said you have or you're working on a 66 unit opportunity, correct?
Yep. It came across my desk, and you can go up to. I've heard people owner finance at least portions of 100, 200 units.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. I never thought that was even an option. So hopefully our listeners here we're getting the juices flowing as far as what's possible with owner financing. So is there any particular scenario where owner financing works, or any particular owner where it works better than another one? I've heard that, they can't have a mortgage on the property, needs to be paid for in full, things like that. What's your best scenario, or who are you looking for as far as an owner goes?
Well, I can give you the best scenario, but the statement that you just made about having to have the mortgage paid off, it just isn't true. Because you have assumable mortgages, you have subject to mortgages where you can actually take over an owner finance property with an existing mortgage. Mm-hmm. And make payments. And I can get into what the difference between assumable and subject to. But ultimately, the best deal is finding an owner with a property that's owned free and clear, that's been paid off. That's your historic. That's your we'll say the best case scenario. Is that case scenario. Are you going to find it on every deal? No, you're not. But I challenge people. I tell everybody whenever I do these meetups, I was on Adam's podcast. I was on the Multifamily Investor Nation Summit, and I've done owner finance through a lot of different meetups and things like that. Mm-hmm. And I tell everybody every single deal out there can incorporate owner finance in some form or fashion. It just can. And most sellers out there aren't 100% on the hook for the property. They did their 20% down. There's a percentage there that you can use as owner finance. So say you come across an owner that's got, $100,000 property, but $600,000 of it is a mortgage. Well, he still got $40,000 in equity that could be owner finance. So you can play with the numbers all over the place. It's not really playing with the numbers, just figuring out creatively how you can make any deal out there be an owner finance deal. You just have to get over the negative connotation of owner financing, which is what I'm out here trying to do, because it absolutely is a very valid and viable tool for your tool belt is owner financing. And once you get one that's successful and you realize how easy it is and how like you don't have to go to the bank, it keeps your expenses down. You don't have to do a lot of the stuff. You don't pay points to the seller the seller. If you do get them to agree to no interest, every single monthly payment that you make comes right off of the principal. I mean, come on, that's building equity right out of the gate. And that's something that's super powerful. And And, all you need to do is learn how to do it and figure out which case scenario. And the best way to do that is, have somebody walk you through doing it.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. And now, I mean, looking back, I wish I would have, on all the properties that I purchased, I wish I would have at least offered, hey, once I got into conversations with the seller, say, hey, I'm happy to do cash on this, but here's an owner finance option. Here's the numbers. Here's why it makes a lot of sense for you, just to see, because I'd be in a different place as far as my capital goes if I would have more deals owner finance. I do have one owner finance deal, and ironically, or oddly enough, the seller approached me, hey, because he knew I was working on getting hard money for the deal, and I don't think he wanted to wait around for that, so he's like, hey, let's how about if I owner finance it? I'm like, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's talk about that. And it ended up being one of the sweetest deals. And so, yeah, I wish I would have been asking for this way earlier on. It'd be a different place for me right now. That's awesome.
And now you've got the pandemic that's going on, and you're going to start seeing the lending criteria is going to be tightened up. And, the big thing for you guys is this is a very valid tool to use. And once you figure out how to use it and do 2, 3, 4 under your belt, you're going to start seeing owner finance deals everywhere. Like
Yeah.
once you know how you never see red Toyotas until you start driving a red Toyota. You never see owner finance deals until all of a sudden you see there's some buzzwords. You start seeing these listings. Seller finances, that's right in the face. That just tells you, but motivated seller.
Yeah.
That's a big one. When they put motivated seller right in the ad for a property, you need to get on the phone and call that property.
Yeah.
Because that's a big tip. Creative financing, you'll see some of that in these advertisements and these listings. And just there's just so many criteria that you have to look for, and the stupidest thing could tip you off. Like you could be driving down the road. Like I'm driving down one of my properties. I was driving for dollars, they call it. You just driving in a neighborhood. I got 2 houses over here. Let's see what else is around the neighborhood. Driving down the neighborhood, and you're like, wow, that's 1.5 foot tall grass. The bushes around this duplex or triplex are overgrown. The gutter's kind of fallen off, and there's people living here. And there's a sign in the front yard that says for rent with a telephone number. Well, they said for rent. I read for sale.
Yeah, exactly.
So I called that number and I said, look, I'm sitting in front of your house right now. I said, you've got a for rent sign. The grass needs to be cut. There's some stuff going on. Tell me what the situation. Would you ever consider selling this property? And the person's like, I was just sitting here considering listing it. And I said, well, here's the situation. If you can meet with me, I'll show you how you don't have to list it. You don't have to pay the broker's commission of 6%. We'll put that right in your pocket. And I will show you how we can get this out of your name in the next 30 days. Met with him the next day at a Dunkin' Donuts, actually. So, sat there having coffee and donuts, which I happen to love donuts. Who doesn't? Mm-hmm. And we sat there and hashed out the deal on the back of a napkin. I went home. I pulled out a blank purchase agreement or, sales agreement, sales offer, filled it out, emailed it to him. The guy signed it, sent it back. We went and used the exact same lawyer, and I think we closed in like 15 days. No money down. The guy was happy, and we got him out of that. And he took care of a problem for him, and I just happened to be sitting in front of his house like, this guy just doesn't care about this house. So if he doesn't care about the house, let's find out why. What made him not care about the house? Because I guarantee you, when he bought that house, he cared about that house.
Yeah.
Why doesn't he care about it anymore?
Yeah.
And just sometimes tenants will do that to you occasionally. You get a couple bad tenants right in a row, man, and you start thinking to yourself, why am I even doing this?
Yeah.
Well, the bottom line is why you're doing it. So
yeah. Yeah, and you're looking for deals. I mean, just so our listeners know, I mean, you're looking for the same type of distressed property, distressed seller that any flipper or any wholesalers looking for you? Same scenarios, right? In general, that's what's triggering you to start the conversation with owners, or is it have some nuances or differences to it?
Well, there are some nuances, and I do have properties that do meet that criteria, but I also have properties that are B and A class, B class properties that people just want it out. They
Yeah.
took good care of the property and they're just trying to accomplish it. I've owned this property for 30 years. I've taken great care of it. Now I'm ready to hit that beach. And I said,
Yeah.
well, let's get you out there
Let's
with
get
my
you
time.
there.
Yep.
Which
And
is,
it just boggles your mind when you say, look through the MLS, look through the realtor.com, Zillow, just start looking in the neighborhood you want to invest and look for the buzzwords, and call the agents. If you have to call back 2 or 3 times, to find that one agent that'll call you back, that young agent that's, and not necessarily, I mean, older agents do too, but the green agent, the new agent is what I meant, not an age thing, but just how long they've been a real estate agent. And
yeah.
a new agent that just got their license 2 months ago, they're hungry.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I learned that early on too. One of my agents in a new market that I went to, we had to bounce some questions off of his broker, a little bit, but man, he hustled so hard for me and found a property for us in a very difficult market, so yeah, those newer agents you got to make sure that they're double checking everything and making sure they're doing it right, because they're going to be new to it, but man, they are hungry and they hustle and they don't have any misunderstandings or misconceptions about owner financing. They're like, oh yeah, let's teach me about that. Let's figure out how we can do it. They get it.
And no preconceived notion.
Yeah.
Kind of like a toddler doesn't know about gravity. They won't know until they fall the first time. So you gotta get them in there and make sure that they're not going to fall. Just help them through it.
Yep. Good. This is awesome. Maybe any other quick tip or two that we should be talking about with our listeners on seller financing?
Get used to the word no. You're going to hear the word no. You heard the word no.
Yeah.
What sets people apart is what they do with the word no. It's kind of, to a certain degree, it's about sales. And if you have some sales experience and you can turn a no into a yes, and you can handle these objections and overcome these objections and turn that around, that's the key right there. Learn how to overcome the objections, and you're only going to do that by hearing the word no. You learn more from failure and hearing the word no than you do from having everything just fall in line for you. And don't get me wrong, that's a great scenario. If everything has fallen in line with you for the last 25 years, kudos for you. I'm totally jealous, but it doesn't happen that way generally.
Yeah.
So when you get that word no, like I was just telling you, the different, like if I had been on the phone with the gentleman that told me, no, I'm not gonna do that, I want 40% down, I would have been like, okay, here's how we're gonna make it worth your while. You get that 40%. What is, if you make $40,000 profit on a property, what are you gonna get hit with? You're gonna get hit with that capital gains tax.
Mm-hmm.
But if I pay you monthly, then you can spread it out. You're not going to get that big tax bill. You're going to be able to spread it out. You'll have your monthly income and you'll spread it out.
Yep. Yeah. Great.
And that's just overcoming objections.
That's super powerful. Yeah. I think a background in sales, any sales skills, even though you're the buyer, you are selling you're selling your solution, and which I love, because ultimately owner financing is a great solution. We're really setting these people up with a great opportunity. We're not tricking anybody. We're not taking advantage of anybody. We are letting them hold the property, continue to make money, but not have to deal with the headache and go start doing the beach thing or whatever they want. It's such a win-win. I absolutely love it, because I'm sure there's a ton of investors out there that are like, man, I would like to sell this. I'd like to be done with it, but I really like and need the cash flow. This is perfect for them. And I really love that. You mentioned one thing. One of the questions I like to ask is what's something that separates those that succeed in accomplishing their goals and their journey from those that fail and give up. And you mentioned getting used to the word no. Anything else that you would maybe add to that, or a different topic?
It's an overall mindset. The whole scenario of owner finance, from people that give up, fail, and never try, to the people that succeed, is turning a negative situation with your mindset into a positive. That's what you have to do. You have to find out, like we've said the entire episode, you have to find out what they're trying to accomplish and show them the best way to do that, and then give them all the benefits that you're bringing to them. They know what the benefit to you is. You don't have to go to a bank. You're going to get this property. You're going to not pay interest. Boom, boom, boom. You got those three benefits. Well, yeah, that's why I'm in it, because I want to make money. Here's how I'm going to sell it to you. You have to have that mindset that says, I'm creative, I'm going to be a problem solver, and I'm going to find you the solutions that you need to have to make your life what it needs to be, or what you want it to be right now.
Yeah.
So the entire mindset thing is just, it's crucial. You can't go into this with a negative mindset. You have to go into it, first of all, knowing that you're going to meet resistance because of lack of knowledge and just the bad connotation of owner finance. So I have no money. I can't afford this property, or I can't get qualified. No, here's how I can show you. I could qualify for it, but then it's going to increase my expenses, and it's going to make you have to pay more money in taxes.
Yep.
So, and that's the big thing, mindset.
That's perfect. Yeah, mindset's huge. Being able to turn those negative things into positive. And I'm sure over your career you've had failures, you've had missteps, maybe mistakes, and in general negative situations. Give us some examples of maybe one of those, and how you power through those scenarios in general.
No, it never happened. Every one of my deals is perfect.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, nobody's believing that. The first deal I bought back in high school, I did pay interest on. So I was young, and the big problem that I had with that first one is calculating the remodel expenses. You have to have a budget for when you decide. If you buy a distressed property, you have to have your numbers cold. You have to know them inside and out, and you have to have them accurate. Well, when my friend and I bought this property, we were like, we'll go in and we'll remodel this 900 square foot apartment for, I think our budget at the time was like $1,800. We bought the house. We're like $1,800. We're going to be making $650 a month.
Yeah.
And we'll have our money back in 3 months. And then the next thing you know, we'll be getting a Corvette,
Yeah.
we were young, and it is what it is at this point. But once you get into the remodel and you're $5,000 in the hole right now, and you're thinking to yourself, oh man, now what do I do? So, that was the big one for me. The first one, we ended up turning it around and refinancing it, cashing out, and, doing some decent things with it.
Yeah.
And made it cash flow like a champ until I decided to sell it. But, that was one of the things. You need to know your remodel budget.
Yeah.
You have to make sure that you stay within budget, because if you don't, the holding costs can get ridiculous. The carrying cost of just having the property costs you from day one. The minute it goes in your name, you got to pay the mortgage payment, you got to pay the taxes, you got to pay insurance, you got to pay lawn care, you got to pay everything. So the quicker you can turn that around and have that making enough money to cover those expenses, the better off you'll be. And that was the giant mistake that we made.
That's huge. That's huge. Awesome.
Yeah.
Good. So let's see. We've kind of already answered that question. That's perfect.
I've got something I can throw in here for you if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
It was an unintended benefit of owner financing. And this is a very powerful one. It's a deal that I'm actually working on right now. And the funny thing about owner financing is, once you prove that you're a closer, and once you prove that you're going to be a performer on the note, then more people are going to be willing to talk to you. So I've got 10 references. Actually, I've got about 7 references, because I bought more than one house from a couple people. but you've got these references in your pocket now.
Yeah.
And I always ask them at the closing table, when I perform this note, and you don't talk about it like if I perform this note, you say, when I close on this, when I perform this note, always talking the positives. When I perform on this note, will you be a positive reference for me for the next one? And, all of them said yes. I bought 2 houses from one gentleman, and that was, the first one was 2 years ago. The second one was last year, and I've been performing on the notes. I get a text message out of the blue like a month ago. And he asked me, the town that I have all my portfolio in is a town in upstate New York, because I'm from New York, upstate, not down in the city. And he said, are you going to be in, it's a town called Elmira. He said, you can be in Elmira anytime this week. And I said, I can be in Elmira whatever day you want. So, well, I'm impressed by the way you've handled the other 2 houses. He said, I'm impressed by your honesty, the way that you've made sure that the taxes are all paid. I've got my money automatically deposited. I've got 8 more properties, which is 16 apartments. And I want to owner finance them to you. And he gave me a number, told me the same as the first ones, no down payment, no interest. And I'm going to take it over from him. And I'm going to cash him out over the next 30 years, because he's ready to retire and he lives overseas. And he contacted me. So we're in the middle of doing the closing right now. And, and in one fell swoop, I just doubled the size of my portfolio. And it was simply because I performed on the note and did everything I was supposed to, because your word is your bond. It takes a long time to build your word and 10 seconds to lose it.
Yeah.
So
that's huge.
And that's when you find that's what's going to happen. He actually was testing me, because he had this plan all along, but he didn't make me privy to it. He wanted to give me an opportunity to either sink or swim. And luckily I swam. And with the 2 properties he did sell me, he comes at me with, hey, do you want to buy the other 8 units or 8 apartment complexes with, I think actually 2 of them were triplexes. So it's 18 units.
Wow. That's incredible. What a win for sure. And all based on just that good performance and keeping those references close. And that's awesome. What's the most common, are you usually doing this like on a 12-month amortized over 30 years, but a 12-month payout, or what's your your term?
Generally what I do is I do a 30-year amortization, so I can keep as much money up front to do the remodeling with a 5-year balloon payment. And that gives me 5 years to stabilize the property, because 1 year, theoretically, you could stabilize the property in 1 year, but I like to have a solid track record of rental income.
Yeah.
So after 5 years, then I can generally cash them out. But for the most part, I've actually gotten to that 5-year balloon payment, and I've contacted the seller to ask it when they wanted me to get the balloon payment to them. And they said, you know what, I'm completely happy with that monthly income and not paying capital gains. Let's just keep going with it. Let's see, let's run it. And I let them know, okay, that's not a problem. But if you have a need for the cash at any time, you call me and I'll cash you out at any time. And that's a powerful benefit for them.
Yeah.
Like, they know they're sitting on this money, and they've got they keep a running total of my mortgages, which I do. I have a mortgage schedule. So I know exactly what my principal balance is every single month I make a payment. So at any given month, if they call me and said, I need to cash out today, I'll go right to that mortgage statement and I'll write them a check for that amount and send it to them.
Wow. That's awesome.
Through the lawyers, of course, because you got to have the mortgage removed and everything. But
yeah. No, that's awesome. Wow. This has been good. I thought I understood owner financing, but I've definitely learned a lot on it for sure.
Yeah.
Where could they go to learn more about this? Like what's out there? What resources are out there to learn more about owner financing besides this conversation?
Yeah, not a problem. We have a podcast called the Real Estate Marathon Podcast, and we started that podcast to help people get to financial freedom like we did, and kind of as a way to get back and get our message out there. You can reach us at the website, which is realestatemarathonpodcast.com. You can also send me an email at larry@realestatemarathonpodcast.com. And we're coming out with a website for our courses, and we're going to do coaching programs, because you can listen to all the podcasts and all the information, but really until you have somebody walk you through it, there's a limiting belief that you can actually accomplish it. And we try and help people get through that fear. And I've got a lot of deals under my belt. So if you're doing the coaching program, you get a certain number of calls with us, and I'll sit down and I'll walk you through the deal. This is how I would structure your offer. This is what I would do. This is how I would approach it. And then once you get 2, 3, 4 deals on your own, even a couple deals, you're going to be so much farther ahead. So anybody interested in the coaching program until we finish our website, just email me at Larry at Real Estate Marathon Podcast, and we can get on the phone with you and see how we can help you get to financial freedom.
I love that. Yeah, I'll make sure all that's in the show notes here, and make sure we can help everybody out there. I think it's a super strong method. I think everybody has to have it in their tool belt, like you said. Maybe it doesn't fit every scenario, but at least if you're looking for the opportunities to use it and throwing it out there. A couple other questions, and then we'll wrap up here. What's a favorite book that you've read that's really been life-changing that you recommend to others?
I'm actually seeing it right on the shelf right behind you. The best ever. Oh, right, the other side.
This one,
the red one. Yep, best ever guide to real estate syndications.
Yeah.
Joe Fairless does a great job in that book telling you how to jump into syndications, which is another powerful tool in the tool belt. And if I ever run out of being able to owner finance these multifamily, I'll probably try syndications. But I do love that book because he talks about a lot of stuff, creating your thought platform and everything.
Yeah, it's literally like it's written detailed enough that it's almost a textbook. It's step by step. Like it goes into so much detail. That's why it's like 7 inches thick, but it doesn't read like a textbook. It's still very engaging and very important. It's very easy to read and consume, which I love that. And broken down into great chapters and segments. So you can kind of go through the process. Like if you did every step in the book, you'd be a syndicator by the end of the deal. Like it's a really, really good book. And that's definitely, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm making that transition from single family to syndicating larger multifamily deals. And again, owner finance has not even been in my mind. So this is probably going to be one of the most powerful conversations I've had in a while, because it's all been about syndicating. Where do I find the investors? Where do I find the loan guarantor? All of that. But now I'm like, whoa, let's just have the owner finance it.
You may not need them.
Yeah.
That's powerful. And we'll show you how to not need them. That's
totally blowing my mind right now. I'm trying not to jump up and down on my chair, but I think it's going to be a great opportunity. And so I'm really glad we've had this conversation. Another question that I really like to ask, it's probably more appropriate at the beginning, but I like to ask it at the end because it really ties everything together now that we've learned a lot about you. What's your why? What's your purpose in doing what you do?
Time. Just having time for my family, time to do the things that I enjoy, time for camping. I've spent the better part of 49 years now working that full-time job, trying to get early retirement. And it was just a catalyst in the last 2.5 months where I've been there for about a year and a half. And I was just scared. It was that scary feeling of not having that regular income. And 2.5 months in, I got that deal for that larger portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
I never even would have considered that if I was still working full time, because it would have overwhelmed me. But now, as soon as I left there and he texted me that, I was like, yeah, let's do it, because now I've got all the time in the world. I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, wherever I want. And time is my why, to spend with my wife, to spend with my children. They're older now and they've got their own lives, but I can work around their schedule now because I've got all the time I need.
Yeah, they're older, but you still want to be part of their lives. That's super powerful. I think that ultimately is what motivates me also. I just feel like life's not about spending your time at a 9 to 5, and I feel like we should work around life rather than have life around work. And I know that's not a common concept out in the world right now. And I'd like more people to understand that. I really feel like there's way more to life. And for whatever reason, as a society, we've just been trained that like, no, you work your face off. And I'm not afraid of hard work and working a lot. Don't get me wrong. But I don't feel like it should just be a complete grind and a complete, 50 years of that. I think there should be a different way to do it. And I think real estate investing, and I'm sure there's some other vehicles, but real estate investing is one that's just proven time and time again to be able to provide that freedom of time and money. And that's why it's so powerful. So my congratulations to you. It seems like you're there. You quit the 9 to 5. You've got some time. You've got freedom. I think I saw on your Instagram you've got a new camper, or maybe it's the camper, which is totally
new camper and a new truck to go with.
Yeah, that new dually truck. I saw that. That's so cool. That's one of my dreams. I mean, I have this. My current vacations are like almost more stressful than anything because I've got to do a bunch of work before I leave, and then I'm fall behind while I'm on vacation, and I get back and I got to catch up. Like, it's almost no fun. I mean, I love the time away and spend it with family and stuff. I've got 4 kids, so it's always a circus. But yeah, I just feel like I would much rather be able to say, hey, yeah, 2 weeks, I'm shutting down. I won't fall behind. I've got people taking care of things. Money's flowing from the properties regardless. Let's take a 2-week vacation. A little more stress-free, a little more relaxing. So
my ultimate goal is to have people taking care of their portfolio, and then I can do all the podcast episodes I want to from the camper. All I need is an internet connection.
That's so cool.
Just get out on the road.
That's so cool, Larry, man. That's awesome. So yeah, we love that. We've already talked a little bit about how to get a hold of you. We'll make sure those are in the show notes. Another question that I've really been liking or been enjoying asking is, what are some ways that you are giving back or giving to others? Because I'm always curious to know what other people are doing and looking for cool ideas and different ways to give back. What's something that you do?
Well, one of the big things that I do is, like I said, just trying to educate people with the podcast, try and get people to get out of the rat race, basically, to quote Robert Kiyosaki, one of my favorite books that was kind of a catalyst for me and a lot of real estate agents real estate investors was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Mm-hmm. And, I read a statistic back before we started the podcast of how many people live paycheck to paycheck, and when you figure that a majority of the households in America are one injury away from bankruptcy, if you get hurt and you can't work again, who's going to pay your bills? Who's going to take care of you? You could go from being on top of the world to being crushed by it in a matter of minutes. If you have somebody throws a back out, or somebody gets into a car accident and they're out of work for 6 months.
Yeah.
It's so scary because so many things could go wrong. And one of the things I like to do is we started our first episode, our second episode was how to take care of accurate idea of where your credit is and start fixing it. You have to know where you are before you can know where you got to go. And that's one of the things we do. And I get on coaching calls. I had somebody just left a fantastic podcast review on iTunes for us because I had done a coaching call with them 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I was on the phone for like an hour and a half, and they just had it was probably more like an hour, but they just had complete access to me, and I answered all their questions.
Yeah. And
it was, I didn't look to get anything. And it was one of those things that my coaching course wasn't available yet. And just try and help out. They were a younger couple, and just try and help figure it out for them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, man, Larry, it's been awesome. I have definitely learned a bunch. I've opened up a few more ideas in my mind about how to get into some multifamily that I never thought would be an option. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate you jumping on. We'll make sure these things are in the notes here. Maybe down the road we do another podcast and see how things are going for you.
Yeah, not a problem, Justin. Hey, you're doing a fantastic job with this. Keep educating the people, keep giving back yourself, and I look forward to seeing your next episodes.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it. You take care.
Take care, man.
Thanks for listening to the Money Maven Project podcast. A true Maven shares knowledge with others, so be sure to share this podcast and leave a review. Thanks so much. And until next time, live life with intention.